everybody. Welcome back to Not Your Mom's Admissions. I'm here with Bridget Allen, my work wife and business partner, founder of Scholar Co. Hey, Bridge, how are you?
Hi, Kyla. Good. How about you?
I'm great. It's nice to see you. All right,
Really?
so today we are going to talk to you guys about the difference between what we do as independent college advisors and what a school college advisor does, and also provide a little bit of insight into why someone might work with somebody like us.
Great. I feel this question all the time, so I think it's relevant and also just a good opportunity to get some of the terminology straight.
Definitely. Let's start with the high school college counselor. What are some of their main responsibilities, Bridge?
So I would say that one of the primary responsibilities of the high school advisor is to make sure that the colleges to which their students are applying knows that high school. So they bring college reps to campus for information sessions, for school-based and in some cases regional information sessions. They put together, or with help of the admin at their high school, they put together the school profile, which is kind of a snapshot of that high school, what its course offerings are, what its placements are. And we have a great blog post on this.
I was going to say, yes, we have a blog about the school profile. Hop onto our website, scholarco.com.
Yes, good plug. Okay, so they put together the school profile as a way for colleges to understand what their offerings are, what types of students they have. So sometimes it's a regional distribution. If it's a boarding school, it includes a matriculation list. As I said, a list of AP honors courses. So part of their job is just to make sure that the colleges out there know the high school, they know their scale, they know their special offerings, and to coordinate on campus or local visits by college reps so that their students have a chance to speak with college reps specifically and directly, especially for students who might not be visiting campuses. What else do you think of when you think of a high school counselor?
Well, a high school counselor is also responsible for writing one of the students' recommendation letters. So obviously this can be complicated for students at like a really big public school where the college counselor might be responsible for hundreds of students and might not know each individual student very well. Conversely, students who go to an independent high school, their college counselor probably only has, a caseload of maybe 60 or 80 kids and knows the students well and could write a much more personalized letter. But we do field a lot of questions. What do I do? My college counselor doesn't really know me, and how can I make sure that letter of rec is strong? So what do you say to kids about that? Especially kids that are at big publics. What do you recommend?
Ooh. Well, a lot of independent high schools just have a counselor questionnaire. Like they know that the counselor is only meeting with students usually from, say, January of junior year through January of senior year. It's typically a relationship of 1 year with some tails into maybe as early as freshman year, but usually maybe there's a class meeting in sophomore year and then some check-in at the end of senior year. So the high schools know that and often will send students questionnaires to fill out for their college counselor to get to know them. So if you are a student who goes to a high school where you're going to get one of those, do a really good job. Be very specific, be very detailed. Don't just throw out a lot of qualities that you want them to care about or want them to talk about. Instead, give concrete examples of things that you've done. If you go to a big public high school, you might be able to approximate that by sending your school counselor a resume, if you have one. If you don't, make one, or just make a bullet pointed list of your various activities, highlights, a little bit of a snapshot of your profile, and send it to your school counselor. Give them your list of colleges, set up a meeting with them after you send them those materials so you can talk about that and really hopefully highlight some of the qualities and experiences you want to come through in your counselor recommendation. And in an ideal world, this would happen before the end of your junior year so that you can then circle back with your school-based counselor at the beginning of the fall and revisit any of those questions, revisit those highlights, and build as personal of a relationship as you can with that counselor. So I'm always like at least a resume and an email and try for at least 2 meetings. What do you think, Kyla? Does that pretty much cover it, or do you have any other genius tricks?
I mean, I think that's all excellent, and that's the ideal situation. A lot of kids, especially again at those big public schools, are not going to get 2 meetings to talk about the recommendation letter with their school counselor. So I think my other recommendation would be, don't overthink the counselor's rec if you're concerned that they really don't know you and it might be not super personal, and then work extra hard to do actually the same thing Bridget was just recommending with your teacher recommenders. They also should have a copy of your resume, a copy of your college list, and you should meet one-to-one with them to talk through some of your goals and make sure that their letter is going to be full of really specific details about your qualities and your achievements. So I think that can help to make sure that of your rec letters, at the very least, the teacher recs are going to be extremely individualized and personal and strong.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of colleges know that the counselor rec's not going to be that personalized. So I'm with you. Don't overthink it. If your counselor recommendation is going to be kind of a check the box, generic, no, this kid did not get in trouble, that's not going to hurt you. They'll just look to other elements of your application to get the information that they're looking for.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm just going to jump in because I know at the top of this we said we were going to highlight some of the differences. So what we were just talking about, the recommendation letter, but also the relationships with college reps and scheduling those meetings. One major difference, and we field this question all the time, one major difference between what we do and what college counselors do is that as an independent advisor, we have absolutely no contact with college admissions reps or admissions officers. We do not speak to those people. If anybody does, it will be the school college counselor. So that's really important to know. And if you are ever meeting with a potential independent college advisor and they're saying, like, I know these college admissions officers and I'll go to bat for you, that is not necessarily ethical and probably not always trustworthy. And then the other thing is independent college advisors do not write recommendation letters for students.
Right. Good points. Generally, you do not want to be working with somebody who is not, how do I reframe this? Somebody who is in support of you, who is saying to you, your goal is my goal, and is helping you put yourself in the strongest position possible, but should not be leading the process. The student should always be driving the process, and most professional best practices are really geared toward this idea of the student is driving their admissions process, not the adults around them. And I think that applies to a lot of adults, but particularly in this role as an independent counselor. One way I think of the difference between an independent counselor and a high school counselor is our job, if we do it well and if we have the opportunity to start early enough, is to help you articulate and define your goals early and then help you make choices to be more competitive to reach those goals. High school counselors are mostly focused, and I say this as a positive thing, but they're mostly focused on placing the students in the class, and they're typically starting in junior year. So they're not always geared toward, hey, maybe do this extracurricular to be more competitive if this is the goal you have in mind. They're going to be a little bit more focused on, oh, here's your profile that I am seeing right now, and this is what your range looks like, and let's optimize your results within that range, but not always able to start early enough or able to be individualized enough to help you change your range.
Yes, and just to clarify what Bridget is saying here, when she's referring to your range, she's talking about what colleges are within reach, so likely target and reach colleges. And it's true, a lot of times the school counselor will just look at a student's profile and say, okay, you are a match for XYZ colleges and these different, tiers of selectivity. And a good independent college advisor is going to really get into the details with the student about what makes a college the right fit and help find schools that are really tailored to the individual student's preferences and fit parameters. And part of the reason why independent advisors can do that is because typically they take a smaller caseload. Like a school college counselor just isn't going to be able to break down the details about every single college that will end up on a student's list because they have other responsibilities. So really, it's not a criticism that they're not doing that. It's mostly just that is something they would not have the bandwidth for.
Right. And they have to balance your considerations, the considerations of the whole class, their whole load, and the considerations of their high school. Whereas an above board independent counselor might be better positioned to just focus on your interests and advocating for your interests. And again, not a criticism as much as it is like the logistics and the practical considerations of the roles that people are in.
Yeah. One other key difference, and this is related, is what Bridget was sort of saying, that most independent college advisors are available to start much earlier with students than the college counselor at school. So, for example, we onboard kids as early as spring of 8th grade. Not everybody has to start there. That is relatively early. But we do think there can be a lot of value in starting to think about your college process early with sort of, low pressure meetings early on, just so you have a little bit of a roadmap and there are no surprises along the way. And then more consistent meetings and a more, targeted approach as you're getting older, so that you can really put together those building blocks that will help ensure that when it comes time to apply to colleges, you are ready, you've done it, you have your strong resume, you've got a functional college list and your working plan of what your early strategy is. And so there's no sort of scrambling at the last minute. College counselors usually, again, start that meeting in spring semester of students' junior year.
Right. So much of admissions is kind of sequential and incremental, and that whatever math course you take in your freshman year might inform what you land in your senior year. Or if you joined the newspaper in your freshman year, you might have seniority to be able to have a good run at editor-in-chief by the time you're a senior. So it is early to start at the end of 8th grade and 9th grade, and you absolutely don't have to begin that early, but sometimes it's just those minor choices that change the angle of your path over time. And it's not about more intensity earlier on, it's just a little bit about strategic planning.
Yeah, and the good news is that we just dropped some free downloadable checklists for kids in freshman, sophomore, and junior year. So if you're not working with anybody, but you do kind of want a sense of like, where should I be right now? What are the things that I want to aim for in this particular year? Hop onto our website, again, scholarco.com, and you can download a checklist and sort of make sure that you are on track.
Yeah. What do you say to people who can't get a private independent counselor?
Well, I think that obviously that's totally fine. Lots of people can't. And there are so many resources online, including this amazing podcast, to help you sort of think about like, okay, what do I want to do in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade to make sure I'm ready for my college application process? I would say if you are not working with somebody, probably the biggest thing would be to make sure some adults in your life, and that could be your English teacher, parent, family friend, somebody should be reading your college essays and giving you some feedback. I feel like that would be valuable as far as like where you could get outside help from someone in your life and some coaching in a way that would be, helpful, especially because there are so many essays that you need to write and it can be really overwhelming.
Yeah. Or just having a sounding board to talk about your college lists. But also, there are independent counselors at a huge range of price points. So you could look at someone in your region who is more geared toward your price point or can do a more limited scope of services to help you on the areas where you really need help. Maybe somebody who follows more of an hourly model. So look to your community, look to your region, look to people who might be able to scale for you, and then look to the many adults in your life who might be able to collectively impart some wisdom.
Yeah, absolutely. I will add one other thing that probably an independent advisor does in more depth than the school counselor, which is what I was just mentioning, is essay support. So how many drafts of a Common Up essay do you typically edit for one student, Bridge?
Probably at least a dozen drafts of a Common App essay.
This is from like brainstorming to the finish line. So,
Yeah.
many iterations, but yes.
Probably at least a dozen. Maybe 8 on the lower end of the range, 20 on the upper end. And that would be just the main app. and then they'll have additional supplements, and most of those get edited anywhere from 3 to 7 times, dependent on their importance and their level of complexity.
Yeah. So the school college counselor, again, probably does not have the bandwidth to edit your essay dozens of times. They will probably take a look at 1 or 2 drafts and give you feedback, and that's awesome. But if you work with somebody who's, one-to-one support, they will probably be able to provide much more, granular feedback on those essay drafts, and also work with you on potentially every essay that you have to write rather than just a handful coming up and maybe a couple supplements. So that is something to keep in mind if you have concerns about your writing skills or just concerns about the college writing process, which is so different from what you write in high school.
But be very careful to maintain your voice. Like, nobody needs to read an essay that an independent counselor wrote for you.
Or that ChatGPT wrote for you.
That ChatGPT wrote for you. Or that your parent wrote for you, because those are also really easy to spot. So ideally, you'd have somebody giving you comments about directions, some strategic advice about what topics to cover, also just prompts to be clearer, provide more specific details, provide concrete examples. So try to really retain your voice, but a sounding board can be really helpful for you to reach the level of depth and complexity and specificity that will make your essay stand out.
Yeah. Okay, well, we've run over time, but do you want to add anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Well, we have, shockingly, a blog post all about this. We actually have, I think, 2 different posts. One is sort of about the difference between a big practice, a mid-sized practice, and a single practitioner college advising. And then we also have one about just why you would work with somebody. So you can hop onto our website, get all those resources. You can drop your questions in the comments or let us know if there are other topics you would like us to cover in a future pod. We are so thrilled that you're listening, and we look forward to connecting soon.
Yes, please send along your comments. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye, Kyla.